Very much when you're sat, in a cafe or a train station or whatever, people are on their devices all the time, and there's a sort of level of acceptance that tells people there is not a problem. And what's particularly sad for me with my background is that I would say that level of understanding is the same in the medical community, actually, where this is also, most doctors don't think there's any problem here at all. I hugely dispute that on the basis of what probably tens of thousands of papers now. There are certainly thousands, and arguably somewhere north of 20,000 published peer-reviewed research papers. Of course, they're looking at this subject from all different angles. So some are looking at it from the level of the cell, some are looking at the effect on biological systems, some are looking at endpoints like some of the disease processes that you've already mentioned, and some are looking at animal groups, some are looking at humans, some are looking at plants. But I think, the biggest step that we need to take as a society is actually about education. So the doctors group that I've put together, called Physicians' Health Initiative for Radiation and Environment, or PHIRE Medical. I put that group together because once I started learning and understanding this subject, I was overwhelmed with requests for support and advice, and I realised that it doesn't matter how specialist a doctor is. Almost none of them have been educated on this particular subject. We were given a bit of training at med school about ionising radiation and how ionising radiation affects cells and how it creates cancer, etc. But not this. And to my knowledge, right here, right now, medical students aren't being taught anything about this at all. So the first step really is education, giving people the tools they need, whether it's some wires or some shielding fabrics, to try and lower their personal exposure. And then really getting to the heart of public spaces and saying, well, people need to give consent the same way that now they're usually allowed to consent whether they inhale tobacco smoke or not. We need to move to that kind of paradigm with radiofrequency radiation. I would say, remember your own humility is the biggest message I have, because I think what happens to doctors, and I have no doubt this happened to me through the system, is we're given our textbooks as kids, essentially, when we come out of school. And if something's not in our textbook, we think it doesn't exist. And to some extent, we're kind of nurtured to feel like we know everything, we have the boundaries, and when we can't make sense of something, we reassure people. That's what I was taught to do at medical school, and that's a terrible way to address health. It should be almost the opposite. We know that we're learning, we're always learning, and what we do today is prime practice will be considered laughable in some decades' time. And no doctors in general have been taught about this, and it's okay to say, I wasn't taught, I don't know, I'm not sure.
You couldn't possibly be aware of all the research out there.
That's right. What it's not okay to do is it's not okay for them to say, when somebody comes and says, I think I'm getting a headache, I think it might be from this, they cannot say, no, you're not. There is so much literature now. They need to go away, read that literature if they possibly can, and if they really can't, they need to say, I'm not the right doctor to look after you because I don't have any knowledge on this subject. But what I keep hearing back, even from medical professionals, is, well, we need a stronger evidence base. That is not true. That's a fallacy. It's just because they haven't noticed the literature. But if they actually go and research it, they'll be shocked at how much they find. So remember our own humility and work within that framework. Know your limitations. That's the most important thing.